Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into Awesome Sunday Show. Before we get started, we'd like to tell you where you can find us.
You can find all of our episodes, including new content like blogs and guest blogs, on our newly launched website, awesomesundayshow.com.
Woohoo!
Our podcast is also available on iTunes, Google Play, Podbean, Stitcher, TuneIn, and YouTube. You can find all those links also on awesomesundayshow.com.
You can also follow us on our social media accounts, twitter.com/awesomesunshow, facebook.com/awesomesundayshow, and instagram.com/awesomesundayshow.
Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the show.
You're listening to the Electronic Media Collective Podcast Network. Yeah, it's a mouthful. For more great shows like the one you're about to enjoy, visit electronicmediacollective.com. And now, our feature presentation.
Hey everybody, welcome to Awesome Sunday Show. Connor here.
And Pat?
Pat, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. How
Yeah.
you doing?
Yeah, doing good. We had a fun game night last night, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Game night's always good.
Yeah. What was that game that we played again? It's called Codenames or
Codenames.
Yeah.
Yeah, Codenames. Not the regular edition. I forget what the name of the edition is, but it's a little more graphic in their wording.
I like it.
Yeah, it was a good time.
We also had
A lot of
like
laughs.
yeah, we also had like a it wasn't 4 hours, but it felt like a 4-hour Uno game.
Yeah, that game got intense.
Yeah. Your girlfriend had to leave, and then Nick Snyder had to jump in. Previous guest, Nick Snyder.
Yeah, and eventually we just shut it down.
I would have won. I almost won like 3 times.
So did
And you
the
were
rest of
such
us.
an asshole. Because, well, you got me once, Nick got me once, and actually, no, fuck Damien, because I almost won 4 times, and Damien got me twice, like to draw like a million cards.
Yeah. You know what? Just forget Damien anyway. Who I didn't even invite him.
Yeah, why? Yeah, why
He
are we
just
friends with
showed
him?
up? Anyway,
Yeah.
before we get started into our topic, we got some sponsors to thank.
Yeah, seriously.
Our first sponsor today is Vinyl Me Please. For the listeners of Awesome Sunday Show, Vinyl Me Please is a vinyl record of the month club. It's actually the best damn record of the month club. Every month, Vinyl Me Please features one album that is essential to the modern vinyl collection and sends it to thousands of members worldwide. Some of the features they get special edition vinyl records that you can't get anywhere else. And they're not messing around when they say special edition. They work closely with the label and the artist to come up with something that you actually can't find anywhere else. They're talking custom colored vinyls, custom lyric books, exclusive artwork, personal notes from the artist, and much more. Every month, they send an exclusive pressing right to your door. They also include an original 12x12 album-inspired art print and a paired cocktail recipe to sweeten the deal even more. So you enjoy a nice cocktail while you listen to your album that, will maybe enhance your enjoyment of the album. Nice little put a little salt on top from Salt Bay.
Ooh. I like Salt Bay.
Yeah, you would. The memberships are flexible and easy. They work for you. And they know you may not be a fan of every record you get, but they have swaps. That's right. You get a record that month that you're not really a huge fan of, you can swap it in from one of their archives, which is pretty great. That's how you please the customer. You're not a fan of every genre or artist. There's no contract, no strings, no guilt trips. You can really cancel any time. No hidden fees either, which is beautiful. And their customer service is top shelf. So what you do to join is you go to joinvmp.com/awesome. That's joinvmp.com/awesome, and you can sign up for the membership for this awesome deal. Thank you, Vinyl Me Please, for sponsoring this episode once again.
And we have another sponsor. We would like to thank Gamefly, because today's show is also brought to you by Gamefly.com. Sign up for a premium, free, 30-day, one-game out trial, specifically for the viewers, or listeners, I should say, of Awesome Sunday Show. You can go to the URL, www.gameflyoffer.com/awesome. Games are shipped directly to you, including a pre-addressed envelope for easy returns, no contracts, and you can cancel anytime. Sounds like another subscription service that's really reliable, right, Patrick?
I agree.
Yeah. You can have multiple games and movies rented out to you at the same time based on your subscription or membership. Rent games online through the mobile app as well. So just in case you're in a store and you're like, that game looks awesome, or you're out at a bar with your friends And they're like, dude, Horizon Zero Dawn is a great game. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to check it out. Next day, it's right there because I went on the mobile app that night. Doesn't that sound great?
Pretty great deal.
Yeah. Also, too, what's really noteworthy, I would say, is that on actual game release dates, rentals arrive at your door. So if a game releases Friday, March, whatever, and you're like, I want that game at my doorstep, it's going to arrive. So that's pretty cool as well. No more standing outside for midnight releases. During the summer, it's not that bad, but during the winter, I don't want to stand outside for a midnight release.
Definitely not.
I'm going to be at the midnight release for Nintendo Switch, though. That I'm actually pretty excited. And you know what's the best part about Gamefly.com, Pat?
What's that?
There is no due dates. It's just a monthly fee. No big deal. And you're never going to be like, hey, you've had that game for too long. We're going to overcharge you. Not like the old days.
So that's good if you play, you really want to milk a game. It's also great if you play a lot of games in a week and you just get bored of one, don't like it, or beat it quick.
We know a lot of people that play games a lot. So instead of buying 2 or 3 games a year, you can get an entire year's worth of Gamefly service and rent as many games as you want. Remember, there are no late fees. And if you like the game that you rented, you can keep the game at a heavily discounted rate. And Gamefly will send you the original game case and manual at no extra charge. Members receive a huge discounts on used game sales. Never get burned by buying a bad game or getting stuck with a game that only takes a few days to beat. Kind of like, I don't want to mention the game, but because you never know, someone could be listening. Gamefly has over 8,000 games and movies, including new releases. Oh, movies. I love movies. As well as the classics. Games are available on current generation consoles all the way back to PS2, GameCube, and Xbox. A great generation of consoles, wouldn't you say, Patrick?
I would say so.
Yeah. To get your free trial today, go to gameflyoffer.com/awesome. Again, I will reiterate slower because I talk fast. That is gameflyoffer.com/awesome for your free 30-day trial.
Great. Thank you, Gamefly, for sponsoring us today. Now into the topic of the day. Do a little bit of what you need to know. We've been doing them here and there.
I like the what you need to knows.
Around the major releases of certain things. We hope they're informative for you. If not, just let us know. But what
It's Pat's
movie
fault.
and character are we going to be talking about today?
We're going to be talking about Wolverine. Shink!
Yes. The final Wolverine solo movie of Hugh Jackman's career, unfortunately, is coming out March 3rd, very soon. So we're going to tell you a little bit about the comic that the story is loosely based on, some of the new characters in there, some of the changes. But right now, it's looking pretty damn good. It's currently sitting at a 96% on Rotten Tomatoes with an average score of 8.1 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, the reviews so far, like, for the most part, 96% of them that we've been reading have nothing but, praise for this movie. It's getting, like, Dark Knight level reviews.
Yeah, which is crazy because, Dark Knight was, the greatest comic book film of all time and just a brilliant movie outside of that to begin with.
Yeah, it's got, it's heavy on its themes, but also lighthearted in certain areas as well with its jokes, and but also it's a character study too. And what's great about The Dark Knight was it's not just a superhero film, but it's also a serious cop drama to a certain extent. And from what I'm reading with the reviews, Logan is not just a comic book movie, but it's also not just like your typical Western either, but a very hard character-driven Western, kind of like True Grit or or Unforgiven. But then it stars Wolverine, who's a superhero mutant, and also Professor Xavier, who is a mutant as well. And we got a new character in the X-Men franchise. And a fan favorite among the X-Men comic books as well, X-23.
Yeah, and for those unfamiliar with X-23, X-23 is the female clone of Wolverine. If you saw the disappointing Age of Apocalypse, or X-Men Apocalypse, at the end we see these blood vials that were from Weapon X, which created Wolverine, taking his blood, and it's enclosed in a briefcase that says Essex Corp. And that stands for Nathaniel Essex, who is Mr. Sinister.
Yep.
Who I hope is in this movie because I want to see him he's one of the X-Men's biggest villains.
He's supposed to be in the next X-Men movie, right?
He's a great villain. I mean, and the next one is, I think the next X-Men film is going to be based around the Dark Phoenix saga, once again. supposedly. But he is a major X-Men villain that we haven't seen yet.
I mean, I want them to do
And
the
he's-
Dark Phoenix saga, right?
yeah.
But I still think
And
that needs to
he's
go to bed for a
very
while.
important to a lot of the characters, both in their creation and their powers and the way they turn up. But they use Wolverine's blood to attempt to clone him for years and years and years. And with the new timeline of Days of Future Past that launched when X-Men Apocalypse took place in, the 80s, right?
Yes, because First Class was 60s.
Days of Future Past was 70s.
Yeah, and Apocalypse was the 80s.
All right, and I think that this is supposed to take place in the
Logan?
Yeah, in 2030s or something.
2029.
2029. Okay, so that's that took place in the 80s. He got his blood 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Over 40 years ago. So they've been trying to clone him for over 40 years.
Yeah, and in the movie too, it's very bleak because it's a different timeline from the Days of Future Past, like First Class timeline. So this is a future where mutants are all but gone.
Right. Pretty much. We don't know the exact reason, but popular theory is, if they stay true, is that a mutant killing disease was released, or some sort of chemical, and that's part of the reason for the elimination of the mutants, as well as them being hunted down.
Because, we can't just live peacefully with mutants.
Right. Of course. No.
Yeah, and one thing about X-Men that I've always loved is it's the way it represents our culture today, or just how our culture has been the past decades, as far as when it comes to like discrimination, bigotry, and all that. It's when one group of people hates another group, there's a retaliation within that other group that's being hated, and that's all throughout history, not even just in the United States. And X-Men has always told that story in such a great fashion, even in like the stories that may not be very good, like still hold that true. But let's get away kind of from X-Men in general, and let's start focusing on Logan, also known as the Wolverine. Wolverine first appeared in Incredible Hulk number 180 in the very last panel, and the first full appearance was in Incredible Hulk number 181. And it was also the very first Hulk versus Wolverine in the comics, which has always been like a great fight that like the comic fans and Marvel fans have loved to see. And I think they've fought about 3 or 4 times in the comics, maybe. But it's also it's an exciting comic. I have a copy of the comic, not the original. I wish I did. I think it's like $400 if you want to get it. I saw it. I'm pretty sure I saw it at Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash for like $400 or $500. The original copy.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's worth it though. I mean, that's a hard thing. That's a hard one to grab. And so that was his first appearance, and his costume's always been kind of funny looking.
Yeah,
but when he first appeared, it was really funny looking.
Yeah, and of course, Wolverine has yet to don his famous costume. It was in a deleted scene in the last Wolverine solo movie, The Wolverine. It was given to him as a gift, and he opened it up, and we saw the classic helmet and suit and gloves and everything. But Hugh Jackman has never been a fan of it in wearing it, I believe, and I know that the director James Mangold definitely didn't want to do it.
It's not, as much as I love the Wolverine character and as much as I love him in the comics, it works in the comics.
Well, the one that they gave him was the brown and black one, not the blue and yellow one.
Yeah.
So it's a little less ridiculous looking. But James Mangold, in an interview the other day, said the reason that he didn't want to use it, which actually I think is a pretty interesting idea, and actually a good point, is because Wolverine is not a gloating or self-important character who wants to show off or anything. He's very selfless and kind of just wants to be left alone and not be the focus of something.
And that costume screams, look at me.
Yeah, that exactly. It says, look at me, I'm bigger than you, I'm better than you, blah blah. It puts almost puts on a show. It draws attention to him, and that's not what Logan is about. He's always trying to get away, especially to deal with like the traumatic things he's endured. But even with the X-Men, he didn't like wearing a suit. He didn't want to be the face of the X-Men or anything of the sort. He just wanted to. And he was always motivated by like personal things. Like he didn't really want to fight anyone unless they fucked with him or somebody that's important to his life or anything like that.
Right. I mean, and when he was,
especially as he got older, became more of a loner and just.
Yeah, he didn't want to. He experienced, because he's lived a very long life. His mutant ability has slowed down his aging process significantly, and you see that in the first X-Men movie where Charles Xavier is examining his body, and he's like, he is so old.
Right, and then in X-Men Origins, if that continuity is still intact in the X-Men movie universe, which who knows, because
it's not.
There's pretty much no continuity. They showed he was born in like the late 1700s, early 1800s. And they showed him throughout that time. So he's at least, over 200 years old, if that still is within that. But yes, in X1, Professor X acknowledges that he's very old. So he's probably at least 200 years old. But his healing factor is so strong and so quick that it takes him forever to age.
Isn't your favorite X-Men movie X-Men Origins Wolverine?
Nope, never seen it.
Fun fact, Wolverine is actually a Canadian superhero.
He is.
Yeah, he's the greatest Canadian superhero according to Incredible Hulk number 181.
Right. And but in this, we can see that he's starting to look old. He's got gray hair, gray beard. He's looking really beat down, and that's because his healing factor is starting to go. It's not nearly as strong as it once was, but it's not completely gone. He's still able to heal a decent amount, but it's much slower, and it won't completely heal his skin. Now it'll leave scarring, and it'll still give him some internal damage and such. So throughout the movie, he's going to be experiencing a lot of chronic pain, and because of his healing factor and how long he feels the pain for, he's less willing to get into fights. He really doesn't want to use his claws. Like, he seriously wants to avoid any conflict now.
Right.
He just wants to get drunk and take care of Professor X.
Pretty much. I mean, because Professor X has done nothing but want to take care of him. Because
right.
It's the Professor X is. I mean, despite not from James, and we're talking about the movie universe as of right now. The James McAvoy Professor X, you see him as a young, brash, like, I like women, douche, yeah. But he grows up into this really loving and caring man, and like whenever he sees someone as a in tragedy or as a tragic figure, he's very selfless.
Right.
As I've always loved the Patrick Stewart Professor X portrayal.
Yeah. And Wolverine is also taking care of him because he is like one of the few things besides beer and cigars that Wolverine cares about. And Professor X has done so much for him that, while it is an obligation, he does want to do it. He has a desire to do it and take care of him. And in this movie, Professor X, I mean, Patrick Stewart's, not a spring chicken. He's up there in age. But they age him a little bit more in this movie, so he does look pretty sick. He looks very old. And he's starting to... His telepathic abilities have become unstable, and it seems like he's experiencing Alzheimer's, or whether light or not, or some sort of dementia at times in this, is what it seems like it's going to be.
This is going to be a depressing movie.
Yeah, probably. Another mutant that's still around, which is Caliban, who is being played by Stephen Merchant. And Caliban was in X-Men Apocalypse, but being portrayed by a different actor. And Caliban is helping Wolverine take care of Professor X. And Caliban's mutant powers is he's able to locate mutants anywhere. So he's definitely being very sought after by the villains, who are the Reavers, which is a gang of cybernetically enhanced, like, thugs, pretty much. And that's being led by Donald Pierce, played by Boyd Holbrook. So obviously Caliban, we saw him in X-Men Apocalypse. He was very valuable because he had tons and tons of customers coming to seek other mutants. Even the X-Men and Apocalypse went to him to find other mutants. So his powers are very useful, but at the same time can pose a danger if somebody wants to use them for bad, say to hunt down and exterminate all mutants. So he's going to be the other major mutant in this, joining Wolverine, Professor X, and X-23.
This is gonna. I'm so excited for Logan. I was like excited for Logan. I was like, oh, this is gonna be a cool movie. Like it's Hugh Jackman's last movie, but the reviews coming in and just it's gonna be great.
Yeah. And X-23 in this, her name is Laura Kinney, played by Daphne Keane.
I think this is her theatrical debut.
Might be. I think she's about 10 or 11 in the movie, so she's young. But she's really got a serious attitude problem, which you can see in the trailers, and is very rash and quick to anger, much like Logan himself. X-23 does have excellent healing ability. She does have adamantium claws, except she differs from Wolverine because she has only 2 on each of her hands instead of 3 like Wolverine does. And then she has 1 that comes out of each foot in the middle. So she's got claws on her feet too.
Yeah, that's such a neat idea.
It is a really great idea, actually. I like it a lot. You know, it's to show a little bit of difference between the two, and it adds a different dimension to her fighting.
Yeah, I don't even want to. I mean, I know in the comics and also in Marvel vs. Capcom 3, which she's awesome in that game. Her moves are just so stylized because it's like she does like cartwheel kicks with her like with the blade feet and everything like that. And I'm just uber excited. But I don't know. Do you have anything else to say about the movie, or should we dive more into his comic history?
Well, the movie is loosely based on the comic series Old Man Logan, which is a very mature, very dark, and deadly comic series. And now it's only loosely based because there's a lot of characters in there that they can't use because of movie rights. Because a lot of them are featured in the MCU are still owned by Marvel. But it's a really great read. Definitely recommend it. A lot of like terrible shit happens in it, but in a really badass way. Instead of being, well, actually, he is being sought by the Reavers in that, but he's also being hunted by Hulklings, which are other individuals who gain the Hulk's powers throughout it. There's a lot of major Marvel characters in there. A bunch of them die, and it's just, it takes place in like a post-apocalyptic landscape, and I don't know, there's a lot of great elements to it, which you can see so far in the trailers. So, you know, while they couldn't fully adapt it, I hope they did it justice, and it seems like it's turning out pretty damn good as far as the reviews are coming in. So that's pretty great. But, you know, it's good to finally have, I mean, we still haven't seen it, but if this is, you know, the reviews are actually warranted, a great Wolverine movie, because obviously X-Men Origins was a horrendous piece of shit. The Wolverine, which is the last Wolverine solo movie, was pretty good.
It was great up until the ending.
I think that ending sucked a lot.
That ending was so bad. I don't blame that on the director James Mangold, because I don't think he wrote it. This Logan he wrote and directed. Like it's his movie.
Yeah, I don't remember if he. We have the internet, so let's just check it out. But yeah, that ending was pretty shitty. Like that was really the worst part of the movie. It wasn't terrible or anything.
The action was at least entertaining. I can give it that, but it just is a muddled mess. And the whole Silver Samurai like nod was stupid. And
yeah, I really didn't like that at all.
But the ninjas were cool.
The ninjas were pretty.
The
damn
ninjas
cool.
were fucking awesome. Okay.
So some other stuff about the movie I'm trying to figure out. I mean, there's really not a whole lot to say because a lot of it is still shrouded in secrecy, and thankfully I haven't seen any spoilers online. One thing to note, though, is there is a post-credit scene. And rumor is it's going to have to do with Deadpool and Wolverine interacting together. or at least it will be Deadpool centric.
Oh, yeah.
Which is cool. Because I personally, and so do millions of others, including Ryan Reynolds himself, want a Deadpool Wolverine movie.
But if this is going to be Hugh Jackman's last...
Well, Ryan Reynolds says he's doing his best to convince him to do one more for a Deadpool movie, which would be fucking awesome.
Yeah, but if this movie's so good, like I would want it to be the final send-off.
And I'm sure he'd want to go out on top. But
I have to see the movie first.
That would just be so cool. That'd be so damn cool.
It works, like the crossover. All right, so into the fictional character. Well, I mean, he's a fictional character no matter what. I should say the comic book character. In the comics, Wolverine was born James Howlett in Canada, hence why he's the greatest Canadian superhero of all time. I love that. Like, most people don't know he's Canadian. They just assume that he's American. Just don't assume. He was born in the late 1880s. He had rich farm owner parents, but it turns out that he was actually an illegitimate son of the groundskeeper named Thomas Logan. Ooh, hence where he gets his name Logan from. So eventually, the groundskeeper is thrown out of the house after an attempted rape. He returns to the manor and tries to kill Logan's father, with John Howlett, not his real father. But in retaliation, Wolverine, his bone claws just come out and he just mutilates him. And that's when his mutation manifests. So I don't know if it was because most mutants, when they gain their mutant ability, it's because it's when they hit puberty. But this one seems to come out of just anger.
Well, a lot of them, it either comes out like it's activated by severe adrenaline or puberty, or sometime after puberty, some sort of chemical in the body will activate the gene, the latent gene in them. Mm-hmm. Like, he's not the only one who has experienced his mutation coming to the forefront from adrenaline rush. And throughout the years, he was in the Canadian Army battalion during World War II, even teams up with Captain America, and eventually he is kidnapped by the Weapon X program. And because of his mutant ability, which we've covered before, he has a regenerative healing factor. He has bone claws that come out of his hands. He doesn't age. He barely ages. So he's continually experimented on in the program. And since his healing factor is so strong, he was able to survive the adamantium insertion into his body, which covers his bones and gives him the metallic claws that he's able to just get out. And that's when he's just like the fucking coolest. And that's when he starts that's when he becomes the character that we know today. And Weapon X is like just a really neat idea. It's always been explored by different mediums, and like you see it again. You first see it in the movies in X2, and then you kind of see it again throughout the movies. And in X-Men Apocalypse, you get a scene with him in the Weapon X program as well. Right after they had given him his adamantium claws. Weapon X is big in X-Men lore. Especially Wolverine's past life.
Because I'm pretty sure it's like you get characters like Lady Deathstrike, Deadpool, I believe, and like that's always just been like a huge Marvel staple is that program. So after the fight with the Hulk, when we first see his appearance, Professor Charles Xavier recruits Wolverine and like a new iteration of the X-Men. And this was like kind of like the second team. I believe this was in the 1980s. That is when he comes around. So this was like the revived X-Men.
So moving on to X-23, a.k.a. Laura Kinney, since she is going to be the other main focus of the movie, aside from just Wolverine. The reason that she became a female clone is because they were only able to salvage the X chromosome when they were trying to clone Wolverine. They could never salvage the Y chromosome, and so after 22 attempts, it was proposed they just create a female clone. And that's how Laura Kinney came out. So there's a whole mess of failed attempts, probably even after that. But she was raised in captivity for a while. She was she was still in control of Weapon X and was used on missions sent out by them. She was usually pretty much just sent as an assassin. Her first mission actually was to assassinate the presidential candidate, Greg Johnson, in the comics. And it was kind of like an advertising ploy in this. But she served Weapon X for a while, then she moved on to the X-Men. Let's see, she was part of the X-Force, New X-Men, and she really, at one point, Wolverine died. And yes, Wolverine is capable of dying.
Yes, you can.
It was actually a huge event.
I'm pretty sure. Don't actually. No, never mind. I don't even want to get into that. Keep going.
Okay. And so she took his place and turned out to be a really popular character, which is great because she actually is pretty damn badass.
Yeah.
For sure. So she's going to be, in the movie, they kind of want her to serve as the replacement for Wolverine since Hugh Jackman has said this is his last one. Although how they would place her back into the X-Men timeline is, going to be a struggle, but they don't give a shit about messing with the timeline because they clearly have, contradicted it every single step of the way.
But but you said before, and it was in X-Men Apocalypse that you see the Essex vials in there, right?
Yeah, her blood or Wolverine's blood was taken in X-Men Apocalypse.
Yeah. So that's a different timeline from Logan.
Well, Logan takes place a few years after the present day of Days of Future Past, I believe.
Yeah, but I thought at the end of Days of Future Past, it wasn't that a different timeline technically. So isn't there two timelines in X-Men? Or am I messing this up?
Well, no, yeah, because
this
is the problem with Fox because in X-Men Apocalypse, in Days of Future Past, the timeline was a new timeline was created, but it was still based off some changes from the first trilogy. But then when they did X-Men Apocalypse and introduced like Jean Grey, Cyclops, and Storm and other characters, they were like in their teens. So they would have been even older in the events of Days of Future Past, which was set in like 2023, I think, at that point. So they should be, another dozen or, another decade or so older than what they were in the X-Men universe. So it doesn't make they like completely fucked up the timeline after they just did it to reset it to create a new continuity. So it's really just the writing and planning of the X-Men that's kind of throwing it off.
I think at this point they just don't give a shit, and they're like, we're just gonna make a movie.
Yeah, they try to keep them connected, but they don't, and it's pretty stupid, especially if the next movie is going to be a Dark Phoenix saga. Again, the time does not match up to what it should be, and Sophie Turner's confirmed to return. So this will either take place in the 80s still, like after the events of Apocalypse, or it's going to take place in the 90s.
That's another annoying thing is that
just skipping decades or like doing one film a decade.
From First Class to Apocalypse, it's like 20 years or whatever, and they look exactly the same age.
Right. I don't know why they decided to do that because in the original trilogy it wasn't like that.
No, they didn't.
It was like a few years between.
They didn't need to do
storylines
at all.
I think they were just doing it as like a gimmick. A style gimmick, really.
Yeah, because Michael Fassbender looks the same exact age in Apocalypse.
Yeah, so does James McAvoy. He just loses his hair.
So does Nicholas Hoult.
Yeah, exactly. And the main characters that carried over from the first two films. I mean, setting it in the 60s in First Class was a good idea because they did it, around the time of the Cuban Missile Crisis, which I thought was an interesting idea. Then doing it in the 70s. Fine, because that movie turned out well that, it didn't really make a difference. But then them planning to do like one every decade and advancing it 10 years, it just causes problems, especially if you're taking younger actors and actresses, but trying to realign it with what happened at the end of Days of Future Past and where everyone was at that point.
Quicksilver looks exactly the same age, too. When it wasn't.
Yeah, and then it doesn't make any sense because if not only will like Jean Grey and Cyclops, who were teenagers, under 20 or probably not even 18 in Apocalypse, they would be probably, another, like at least in their late 50s, early 60s within that new timeline. And then Professor X, from then, if they don't age that much, he ages a lot, like looks-wise.
Yeah.
So I think that they might as well just make each movie its own separate thing and not have it factor in, because it just creates confusion story to story.
Yeah.
But the one good thing is, since they keep doing that, they can insert an older X-23 into any of the other upcoming movies without having to explain how this 12-year-old girl from 2029 is now back in the 90s and she's like a 20-something-year-old.
Yeah.
Because if you're not going to stick to a continuity, you could just fuck around. But X-23 is supposed, they brought her into this story to add on to pretty much a passing of the torch from Wolverine to X-23. So they still have a Wolverine-like character going forward.
And a worthy one, too. A lot of people love X-23.
Yeah, X-23 is great. And it actually gives them some time, depending on how well they want to do it, because if they were to go and just recast Wolverine, it would suck and be a lot of pressure on whoever they would do next. That's why they want to focus on
a lot of time.
X-23 for a while, because if you're gonna recast Wolverine, you're gonna need like at least a decade.
Hugh Jackman's been playing Wolverine for 17 years.
Yeah, it's crazy.
17 years. I was 9 years old when I saw X-Men in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of grew up watching Hugh Jackman play Wolverine, So I'm always up, and I'm always like up for like a new actor giving like a new spin on a character. I mean, they did with Spider-Man like 3 fucking times. But I just feel like it would be way too much of like a sour taste, like right away. Just like, oh, we replaced Hugh Jackman. Like no one's gonna be cool with that right away. If X-Men ever gets back into the hands of the MCU, that's when I would want the recasting of Wolverine.
Yeah, but that seems very unlikely to ever happen anytime soon. But, so that's what the purpose of X-23 is. So they obviously will, after this, when they use her again, she will almost definitely be older, whether it's in the next X-Men movie or the New Mutants or whatever X-Men movie that's coming up. So, but that gives them plenty of time to find an actress, like an older actress. Because they're not going to wait for the actress that's playing her in this movie to, become a teenager or something, or like at least 18 or.
I mean, how old is she though? Because she might, even in the movie, she's 10 or she's 11 or 12.
The actress is right around that time.
Okay.
Age. Yeah, she's
I know,
very
like,
young.
In Stranger Things, like some of those kids are older, but they just look younger.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's tough what they're going to do, and it's still very annoying, like the whole timeline thing. But there are a lot of really great stories with X-23, and then they can just rework some of Wolverine's old stories that they didn't get to do, or some of his old exploits or enemies or whatever, and insert them into an X-23 based thing. And they could also give her a solo movie, and that would be the first X-Men Fox Cinematic Universe female solo movie, at least, unless they do something before that. Because Fox does want to start doing more solo movies, which they should, because they own such like a great amalgam of characters that they don't need to just do the full X-Men team up movies.
No, I mean, not that I don't want full X-Men team up movies anymore or anything like that. Most of them are good. There's a few bad ones. I mean, even Apocalypse, like, which we were disappointed with, isn't a terrible movie by any means. It just sucks that Oscar Isaac, a great actor, was just, of course, take over the world,
Yeah, there was a lot of... It was not terrible. It was just not good.
It was whatever, yeah. And especially coming off of Days of Future Past, which was, like, might be the best X-Men movie. Like,
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
Not counting the solo movies.
Well, we'll see how Logan is. But Donald Pierce, I believe, is a character that's being created just for the movie, and he's going to be serving as the leader of the Reavers, like I said. And it's, again, unconfirmed if he's going to be in that Mr. Sinner is going to be in this movie. I really wish that they do include him, and I hope that they chose somebody, a good actor, and I hope they use Mr. Sinister again and again and again because he's great. He's one of their most well-known villains. He's very powerful. He shaped a lot of the X-Men history, but so far we don't know because either A, he's not in it, or B, they just have it crazy under wraps.
Which is, most likely scenarios.
Well, actually, the director, James Mangold, said that the character would not be appearing in this film to keep the film's grounded style consistent.
But when have directors ever not lied?
I mean, they could just be saying that.
Yeah.
Or maybe that's what the post-credit scene will be. Not Deadpool, but Mr. Sinister. I just want them to do him soon. That'd be great.
He would be cool.
Because Mr. Sinister is responsible for the creation of Cable.
Oh, yeah.
Who is most likely going to be, or almost definitely going to be in Deadpool 2.
Well, I mean, they said it in the end of Deadpool 1.
But things can change.
True.
But yeah, so Mr. Sinister will have to be, presumably, unless they just decide to change up his origin a little bit, presumably will be in, should be in the movie universe, at least. Because he is responsible. He tricked Cyclops into, he created a clone of Jean Grey. And then just superimposed some of her memories on it, and then had Cyclops sleep with her, she gave birth to Cable, and then through some manipulation, he was going to use him as a tool to make himself even more powerful, and then Apocalypse came along, and then took him, and then infected him with the techno-organic virus, blah, 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 blah. And Cable is a huge X-Men character. He's one of my favorites, if not my favorite X-Men character.
Yeah, he's a fan favorite.
He is, even though we don't really see him using his telepath abilities because he's using his telepathic abilities to stop the spread of the techno-organic virus from taking over him, it's been said that if he didn't have to deal with that techno-organic virus, he'd be probably the most powerful telepath in the X-Men and Marvel comics.
But he doesn't need it because he's just fucking cool.
He's just a badass.
Yeah.
He is just a complete badass. And actually, there's an alternate version of Cable that is like an Omega level mutant, which is like top of the line powers type mutant. There's alternate versions of every character, but he is somebody that's seriously powerful, and Cable himself can be. So I hope, and for those who don't know, Mr. Sinister, his real name is Nathaniel Essex, hence Essex Corp. He's actually, he is been ranked, of the top 10 X-Men villains, he's been at least number 6 or higher. He's actually been ranked by IGN as the 29th best comic villain of all time, which is pretty impressive.
Because it's comic books, a name like Mr. Sinister is so silly, but it works so well.
Yeah, and if you look at him, he is kind of silly looking. He's this
kinda.
Yeah, all right. He's very, very silly looking. He's this ghost white guy, and he has red eyes, a red diamond type diamond in his forehead. The suit he wears is purple with red accents, and just has all these they look almost like ribbons hanging off it. So he is a ridiculous looking character, but that's why the name fits even better. But he's actually really, really powerful.
He's one of those mutants that has just a million abilities. I'm sure genius level intellect is one of them. Superhuman strength, durability. he has a regenerative healing factor. I'm pretty sure. Like I have to dig up some of my old comics, but I remember there's a panel where like Cyclops shoots Mr. Sinister in like the stomach, and he's just like half of him's blown away, and he's just like smiling a little bit. He's like ha ha ha, like that doesn't do anything. Telepathy, shape shifting, like pretty much immunity, telekinesis. And just like Wolverine, he has prolonged longevity too. So he's pretty much like
he's
unstoppable.
actually from the 1800s. Like he was born in the 1800s too. He's classified as an alpha level mutant, which I actually think might be the highest over Omega. Could be wrong because it does get kind of weird in some areas of classification. It's never consistent with that, but those are both like the top two. He's able to create force fields, shoot concussive blasts. Like he pretty much has just like a handful of different mutant abilities just thrown into it. And he's also a brilliant scientist too.
Genius level intellect.
Yeah. He served Apocalypse. He's had conflict with Apocalypse. He's involved in so much in the X-Men lore.
He's one of those villains where it's like Mr. Sinister. Holy shit.
Yeah, and he's been featured in a lot of their video games too. Like if you remember the one for the arcade cabinet,
was it X-Men
like
versus Street Fighter? Or are you talking about the beat 'em up game?
Just like the beat 'em up game, side scroller that you could play at arcades.
Which one? Because there was the one where Magneto was the final boss where you guys welcome to die, which is the greatest line ever. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I just know he was a villain in it. I don't remember the name of it.
Yeah, I forget which one it is.
He was actually one of the main villains, or was the main villain in the Deadpool game that came out for Xbox 360 and then was later ported onto the current generation consoles.
That's never happened with a video game.
No, but he's a very complex, very interesting, and like kind of classic villain, even though he's very ridiculous looking. And he's actually only created in the 1980s, so he is a newer, in terms of how long the X-Men have been around, villain, in a way. And he is a fan favorite. I think he's great because he's absolutely ridiculous and he's powerful, and all the way he's manipulated so much with the X-Men history, I think would make him a great future villain. And Bryan Singer, who is apparently not going to direct any more X-Men villains movies, says he does want to use him.
I mean, it's about time.
Yeah, and that because how many movies? Granted, Magneto is the ultimate X-Men villain. You know, he's their best villain, for good reason. But if you keep, because like with X-Men Apocalypse, they kind of destroyed all the character development that Magneto had from First Class and Days of Future Past. And then Ian McKellen, throughout all three movies, his character was great and only got better. But he also does team up with the X-Men when needed. And so they do need a new villain for the X-Men to fight. That's not Magneto.
Right. And I'm tired.
Especially if Michael Fassbender's not coming back.
Yeah, and I also kind of sick and tired of like, we have a common goal. Let's team up,
Yeah.
Like they did that in X2.
Right.
They kind of did it in Days of Future Past. It's yeah, but no, I'm ready for Mr. Sinister to show up in the X-Men movie universe. But I'm also ready for Marvel to take over that universe too, but that's a whole different podcast for a different subject.
Right. And like Mr. Sinister's goal is to create the perfect mutant for him to use as his tool. And that's where X-23 comes in a way. But it's a great future. I hope that he's in Logan. I hope that James Mangold is, just throwing us for a loop. But, there's really so much we still don't know, which is good because I really would like to, go into it fresh without any spoilers or anything because it does come out next week.
Yeah, it comes out pretty soon.
Yeah, March 3rd.
We'll do a review on it.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do a review on it.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, I can't do the Thursday night if there's a Mr. midnight screening because I'm getting the Nintendo Switch that night. But one thing I want to kind of factor in is whenever you say like regenerative healing ability or regenerative healing factor, I don't know. I don't think people know how powerful his healing factor is. They'd be like, "Oh yeah, he can like get shot in the head and like he heals himself. He can survive a nuclear blast."
He has survived a nuclear blast.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he can regenerate from just a single drop of blood.
It's something ridiculous.
Both him and Deadpool are capable of doing that.
Yeah, there's some like the way to kill him. Like someone said you have to like cut off his head and like fucking throw it across the there's a planet or some shit like that.
Well, in the comics, the way he was killed was he was just completely engulfed in hardened adamantium. Like this huge barrel of it was poured on him and solidified, and he suffocated and was not able to break out of it with that.
Oh man, that sucks.
Yeah, so the thing that gives him, enhances his strength, that replaced his bone, ended up killing him. Which is actually, like, there's a really cool shot of it in the comics, like a really cool panel that has it in it. But yeah, he's pretty much almost impossible to kill. But yeah, so there was a point, I think there is a panel where a nuclear blast just completely eroded every single ounce of a cell of flesh and left just his skeleton, and then he just regrew like really quick right from his skeleton.
I think in Avengers vs. X-Men, Wolverine like heals from like his skeleton too, and like Spider-Man like watched it and he was like, "That's fucking gross, dude." I have to pick up those comics again. I still have them somewhere. But yeah, I don't know. Is there anything else you want to touch on with Wolverine there, Patrick?
There's not really much to go on because not every single factor in Wolverine's comic history or any of the other characters' comic histories is really gonna be featured in the movie or any future movie.
Also, too, it's like there's so much to comic book characters that it's just impossible to cover every ground. It's almost impossible to know everything about the character. Too.
Right. I mean, like Wolverine's been around. What did you say? 1964 or something like that. He's been around for at least 50 years.
His first appearance was in 1974.
74. All right, so 40 something years. But we in the movies, even the ones that are like really consistent with a certain storyline or adaptation or whatever, they do mix and match a lot of stuff and change it around a little bit. So, and it's better not to know everything going into the movie.
I agree.
Yeah, so this was really just for some background on some of these characters to go into the movie without being spoilers. Because they are stuff that will be explored. In the movie, we know for a fact she's X-23. Like right off the bat,
we knew that.
That when they first showed her, even before she ripped out her claws.
Yeah, you gotta protect this little girl. I wonder who she is.
Yeah, and then boom, next trailer, she whips out her claws. So yeah, we know that much. We don't know how consistent they're gonna be with her backstory or how it's gonna end up. For all we know, they could kill Wolverine at the end of this. I do have one prediction though. Professor X will die in this movie.
I think so too.
I think that's 100%. And Wolverine, I don't know if they would actually kill him, or just have him like disappear. That way they leave it open in case Hugh Jackman wants to come back. But then again, they really don't need that to happen because they can just fucking throw Wolverine anywhere else, especially in Deadpool, which takes place outside the major timelines. So it depends on how they want to go.
Yeah, at this point, I think people have been talking about wanting to reboot the X-Men franchise for a while.
When you think about it, I mean, that's what Origins kind of did with a lot of the background and continuity of it. And then all of a sudden it was not part of it.
Because it sucked.
Yeah, it did suck. And then, Days of Future Past, reboot. And then, First Class, reboot. Days of Future Past, semi-reboot. X-Men Apocalypse, just out of nowhere, mostly.
Yeah.
Not even a reboot, just a random assortment of shit. Even the Wolverine solo movie, the solo movie The Wolverine, takes place out of the continuity. Its main continuity is it takes place after X3, when Wolverine is forced to kill Jean Grey.
That was sad.
Yeah, but otherwise it doesn't factor into the main timeline. So this, I guess, is really just like a branch off that timeline and not really a huge factor into it.
All right. Well, I think that about does it for
Right.
Wolverine.
Yeah. One thing I will say, though, in regards to the X-Men, you all should be watching Legion on FX. It is one of the trippiest and craziest awesome shows that I think I've ever watched. And it's only been, I think, as of we're recording this, tonight is the 3rd episode. And it's about Professor X's son, David Haller, a.k.a. Legion. Highly recommend it. For those of you who are fans of the show Fargo, written and created by the same guy, definitely check it out. And yeah, actually, the other X-Men show that's coming out for Fox just cast 2 actors in it, I think.
Really?
Yeah, the currently untitled project, they cast, I forget what her name is, but she's going to be playing Blank. And Bryan Singer, who said he was done with the X-Men, is going to be directing the pilot.
Yeah, but I mean, like, directing a pilot isn't really, like, that big of a deal. J.J. Abrams directed the pilot of Lost, and, like, I think after the
but he also created the show.
Yeah, but, like, after the first season, like, he had nothing to do with it, I'm pretty sure.
He was a producer, but, producer is a loose term.
But, like, yeah, exactly. Like, I don't think he wasn't involved in the creative process, like, after the first season.
Yeah. Well,
which shows.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. But, I mean, he's still getting involved. The show's Legion does not fall into the movie continuity. It's kind of just its own thing, which
That's
is cool.
fine.
But yeah, just wanted to say you should recommend that. Yeah, so that about does it. Thanks for listening, guys. Thank you to our sponsors. Vinyl Me Please. Remember, sign up for the Best Damn Record of the Month Club at joinvmp.com/awesome.
Yeah, and be sure to check out Gamefly.com. Remember, if you love video games, and especially if you want to play the X-Men Origins Wolverine tie-in video game, which is way better than the fucking movie, you can rent it on Gamefly.com. And if you want to get a free 30-day trial, go to GameflyOffer.com/awesome.
Yeah, don't play that game. Get something good.
Dude, the game's good.
All right, well, get something more worth your time.
All right.
Thanks for listening, guys. Remember to check out awesomesundayshow.com. Just released a couple blogs the other day. I'm going to be releasing more. Find all episodes on there and all our social media. And you can get a free sticker there. All right, guys, take it easy.
Peace.